where can we start? I want to start by a couple of things that you said there. And I think we're going to jump around a bit here because I've got things from childhood, but I've also got this great example that maybe resonates with a lot of people that's quite fresh. 2020, 2021, you lost some businesses, you moved back to the UK. Now you said two things there that I think a lot of listeners will pick up on. You retreated from nature and you also stopped doing running. You stopped running, which was something that you knew brought you a lot of satisfaction. Were you conscious of those things, mate? Did you consciously say, I'm just too depressed to go out and do it? Or can you talk us through maybe how that transpired?
Yeah, I can picture myself in that room in that moment when I was thinking about this at the time. They just feel insurmountable. They feel so difficult to do. And people who have gone through depression will understand that. Like an ordinary 5K run that does take a little bit of, kind of effort to get on your shoes, to get out. There is always resistance there. Even now when I'm in a good headspace, like I procrastinate with the running, even though I should be running 100K a week. I procrastinate and it's hard to do, but it just feels 100 times harder when when you're depressed, and there's no kind of, it's really difficult to explain, but even going to the supermarket feels like a massive chore and you just don't want to do it. You just don't want to do it. There's something in your head that says, no, not today. Let's just sit in bed. And there was all of this kind of reasoning with myself. I was like, okay, I can stay in bed for another half an hour. It won't hurt. The day's still young. It's 12 o'clock in the afternoon. But those tasks and those pleasurable things in life just don't seem pleasurable anymore. And that's the really difficult thing to explain to people that maybe haven't been depressed before, because they're like, well, just get up, get up, and shake it off. And and I was one of those people before before I experienced my first couple of bouts of depression, because I always felt like, why can't they just, get up and get moving and stuff? It's not, when you go through it, and me being a very motivated person, when I'm not depressed, I've experienced firsthand how it feels. And it's just difficult to do those things. They just don't seem enjoyable. They don't seem like they're going to bring any joy. All you want to do in that moment is retreat and rest and relax. And I think that's maybe the body's survival mechanism. Yeah. It's like, okay, you're depressed at this moment in time. We're not going to get better by activity. We're going to get better by relaxing and accepting that this is the moment. So for me, running's probably an extreme example, but even simple stuff like showering or going to the shops became, really difficult. I often said to my friend as well, like, more difficult than running a marathon. Like the kind of activation energy or whatever that I needed to go to the shop when I was depressed was more difficult than running a marathon, just because of my mindset at that moment in time. And again, people who haven't been depressed will probably listen to that and think, oh, well, that doesn't make sense. But you're in a completely different headspace when you're depressed.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think you're absolutely right, mate. We've probably got, I don't know what percentage, but for a lot of people, they're just, how can this be? And I think, mate, as like I coach a lot of people, and I think if you'd have said to me 5 years ago, I'd have had exactly the same approach. I'd be like, come on, Dan, just get up. Let's just go for a walk. It can't be that hard. Like, I'm not asking you to, let's stay on the running theme because it resonates with you and with and probably with a load of listeners as well. But it's not like we're asking you to go out and PB your marathon, in the rational mind for the person that hasn't suffered from depression. But you're sat there and you're like, that's actually, just to get up is way harder than like you said, mate, I'd rather go and try and PB my marathon in that moment. It must be like a crazy sort of place of absolute conflict in the mind, though, or isn't it?
it massively is. And like, it feels like you're summiting a mountain, like, and what I learned very quickly, and I didn't do this the first time, when I struggled with depression for the first time, I fought it, and that's a bad strategy. You're not gonna overcome depression by trying to fight it. I learned the second time round that it's a signal from the body that something needs to change, and it's a signal from the body that you just need to chill out and relax and rest. I hadn't done that in my life. I'm 32 now, and a couple of years ago, when I experienced my bout of depression, I hadn't relaxed for the first 32 years of my life. I've just been work, go. That's probably my addiction, is work. Yeah. And still I struggle with that today. But my kind of attitude towards depression the first time round was, okay, let's get a strategy for this. Let's create kind of a game plan to get through this. Yeah. And it was just, it's totally not what the body needs. You can't perform at the level that you perform at when you're normal, when your head's in a good space. So like creating strategies and all of these kind of things and action lists and to-do lists, and I'll do this and that and I'll get up and I'll run for 30 minutes, just doesn't work. My depression was a signal from the body that I needed to relax, a signal from the body that I needed to chill out and rest and meditate and be okay with doing nothing, which is bloody hard for somebody that loves working all the time. So that's the signal that I got, and then I started to change my ways in that direction, rather than fighting it, rather than trying to summit that mountain, and just being like, no, this is what the body needs. It needs to chill at this moment in time. And I started to get better.
Do you go through, is there a lot at the start, mate, of almost like the sort of what's defined as the first stage of grief, denial, like I'm not in this. So you do have this constant war of your body and your mind, because it's all one, is saying, Dan, relax, chill the fuck out, mate. You've been going like accelerator to the floor all your life, but you're like, no, I'm not doing that, because I know that I don't have to do that. So there's this massive, you're denying that anything's wrong from the get-go.
You're in conflict for sure. Yeah. Like the only strategy I knew at that moment in time was to do more. And you just can't do more. Like the body says no. That's the point here. That the mind's saying, like, here are the ways that I know to deal with this, which are go running, eat salmon, all of these little things that you read on the internet of like, almost like there's a strategy to get through it. But my body was saying no. And every time I do those things, it was like nothing brought me joy at all. I just wanted to melt in my bed. And if you knew me, I'm a really active person. Like I'm always on the go. I'm always running. I'm always moving. I'm always doing something. But in that moment, my body just didn't want that. But it was a really, really, both of the bouts of depression that I've had in my life were really, really profound learning experiences. And now being in a good place in, July 2023, I can say that I'm grateful for those experiences, because they've allowed me to realign myself at what I consider to be a higher consciousness and better understanding and awareness of myself.